My name is Kelly Carroll, and I chair Bennington's Community Policing Advisory Review Board. Today is Thursday, February 15th, 2024. We are meeting in the Bennington Fire Facility Multi-Purpose Room on the 3rd floor at 130 River Street in Bennington, Vermont. I'm going to ask the rest of the board members to please introduce themselves. Starting.
Jeff Vickers.
Scott Richmond.
Kate Cost. Vicki Lampard.
We also have Tom Haley, our Select Board Liaison, and Lee from CAT TV joining us. So thank you very much. To begin this evening, we'll start with the town vision statement that Kate's going to read.
All right. Bennington is a welcoming, engaged, inclusive, and resilient community where everyone, regardless of identity, shares in our vitality and benefits from an outstanding quality of life.
Thank you, Kate. Next, we have the consent agenda, which consists of the January meeting minutes. So for purpose of discussion, could I get a motion to accept?
I move.
Motion we accept the minutes.
And second? Okay. Any discussion?
No.
Okay. All right. So all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? So passed. Okay. Next on the agenda is public comment, and we did not have anybody sign up for public comment, so is there anybody here that would like to speak? Okay. So next on our agenda is an update from the Bennington Police Department. So I'd like to welcome Chief Paul Doucette, who is going to talk about the Citizens Police Academy and an update on the new K-9 team town fundraising. Thank you and welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for having me here again tonight, although I would have been here anyway. I appreciate the opportunity to talk about a couple of little projects that we have going on at the police department. So we put together our Citizen Police Academy, and we wanted to start that at the beginning of March. We have received several phone calls, lots of comments from people, but only a couple of applications have come in for the Police Academy. So we'll probably continue working this, and I'm going to work with Jonah to see if we can try one more time to put that out. Some of the feedback that we've received is that this is not a good time of year to have the Citizen Police Academy. People are asking if it can be held late spring or early summer, and some people said that they would be able to get time off in the summer. Some people think that, you know, the 10 weeks is a huge commitment. But to cover all of the things that we really want to cover, it will take the 10 weeks in approximately 3 hours, and then that field day that we're all looking forward to. So we'll evaluate that. It's definitely not an issue that we're just going to let go. We do want to encourage people to sign up and apply. The application is on the website. You can fill that out and drop it off. If we don't get a lot of applicants, we'll put it on pause for now, and then we'll reevaluate that for later in the spring, and see what happens there. So there is interest. It's just some people are indicating that this isn't a good time for them. So anyway, so listen, I want to tell you that since our meeting with the Select Board and announcing adding a second K-9 unit to the Bennington Police Department and asking the community to get behind this and support it, there is much support in the community. I want to specifically mention the VFW here in Bennington and Norm LeBlanc and his crew. They have really stepped up. They made the challenge, willing to donate $7,500, and they've tasked the community with coming up with the other $7,500 And then I've heard from other community members that that's not enough, Chief, what are you thinking? So we're going to let this go, and we're going to fundraise. We know that Gracie will have to be replaced in a year and a half, and we don't want to do another fundraiser. I actually received some messages from some folks that are interested in donating a shepherd when it's time for Gracie to retire. Hard to talk about. Gracie's been with us for a long time, and she's a hard worker, and she works harder than Rob sometimes. So I think that we're gonna keep all of the contacts and all of the information, and we're gonna save that. But I do want to show you. As I've explained many times, these are my little Labrador Retriever friends. I did paint them myself. That was one thing I did pass when I was in elementary school, was art. And so we've got these little labs. Heather Paquette down at Bennington Subaru let us take her stuffed lab, out of the showroom. So he's in our communications room in the window, so people know to go to the window if they're coming in to make donations. So right now, we're doing fairly well with bringing in donations. I don't have an exact count for you. This week we got to have a meeting with Norm LeBlanc, and another representative from the VFW, and they've got plans. And it was just really, to me, amazing to realize how much support is out there for this program. And on April 12th, this is not an advertisement yet, but on April 12th, we are going to have a wonderful event down at the VFW, and I think that we're going to bring the community together, and we're going to raise the money that we need. We're also going to announce all of the donations that we have received. We're going to wait. We're not going to do that piecemeal. This way we don't leave anybody out. But we have received some donations where people don't want to be recognized or be on a list, and we completely understand that. So we continue to fundraise. We'll be doing it, probably through the month of April, and there'll be an event. Watch for that. There'll be a great event down at the VFW with basket raffles and other types of raffles, and a little mystery game, which I'm a little nervous about, but hey, some people say I am an actor, so let's see what happens with that. I want to definitely participate in that and see how things go. So I am open to any suggestions or ideas from the community. Very easy to get a hold of me through our website, or you can certainly call and leave a message on my voicemail if anybody at home has ideas or what have you. But that Norm LeBlanc, I'll tell you, he's got the community wound up, and I appreciate it. And so we appreciate the support. But while I'm here, I'm happy to answer any other questions. I've touched on the two things on the agenda, but happy to answer any questions from anyone in the room from the community or any CPARB members.
I just wanted to talk back a little bit more about the Citizens Police Academy. What is the deadline for the applications and making the decision on whether or not March 6th will be a go? And what are you hoping will, talk about some of the results that you're hoping for from that, as far as, like, are you looking to possibly recruit, just educate, what are you expecting, what are you hoping for the community out of that, to get that word out?
So initially we talked about having the Citizen Police Academy because a lot of people were interested in what it is that the Bennington Police Department does and what it is our law enforcement folks and our communication staff do at the police department. So we wanted to be transparent on that. We wanted people to experience some of the things that we do. We wanted people to, or we want people to, we're going to do some scenario training, for example, and let people make decisions, those quick decisions that law enforcement officers have to make every day. And our goal is to have at least 15 people in this class or in these classes, and So I'm figuring that if we don't hit a mark of at least 10 by next Wednesday, we'll probably just we'll postpone the academy until later in the spring. We have a lot of fun things planned. You'll hear from Human Resources. You're going to hear from the state's attorney. You're going to hear from Homeland Security. You're going to hear from the National Guard, the analyst program that we use. So we really want to be open and transparent about all of the things that we're currently doing at the police department. Our advocate is going to make a presentation as well. She's already created her PowerPoint, and you'll hear from our crisis worker that's assigned to the police department. So there's just a whole host of things. We're going to do use of force training. We're not going to get down on the mats here in the firehouse and throw people around because we just don't want to hurt anybody. But there'll be some demonstrations. I think, Jeff. Bummer, right? I think Jeff's just volunteered to absorb a 5-second taser ride, but there's going to be demos and things like that. Rob Morawski is really looking forward to showing everyone what Gracie does. There's a lot of people that don't understand what the canines are capable of doing. Certainly far better evidence finders at times than we are. So again, that's just a brief synopsis. I mean, we have this planned out, and of course it would end with a field day for those people that want to participate and do a little hands-on. So that's really where we're at. It really is going to be interesting. We're gonna make it educational, fun, and interesting all at the same time. But again, I don't discourage people from applying. You have to be at least 18 years of age to apply. And I still hear Kate asking me if people are going to actually go out on patrol and do law enforcement things. There is room for going on a ride along, but there's no room for going out and doing enforcement. So that's not going to happen. But yeah, so if we have to put it off a little bit and wait, maybe people want to wait for warmer weather or what have you, but we will make it happen.
Well, I would encourage people to take advantage of this because, number one, it's no cost to the person. It's an education opportunity. And I think that a lot of us hear a ton of misinformation. And there's a lot of frustration on why this doesn't happen or why this does happen. And a lot of times it does go back to the legislative statutes, and you have to understand that. And I think we've been fortunate on the board because we have had some additional training and had the opportunity to ask some questions. And I think that this is a really wonderful opportunity for people in the community who are curious about this, whether it's somebody who's maybe thinking about a career in law enforcement or the judicial side of things, or whether just somebody, like me who doesn't understand some of the frustrations that we see out in the community and why, and it gives you a chance to understand that there are policies, processes, statutes that it all relates back to. And I'm really happy to hear you say that the state's attorney's office is going to be represented, crisis, HR, everything. I think it sounds really well-rounded, and I would encourage people to participate.
Another piece that we plan to present is the state criminal justice system versus the federal criminal justice system. And, it's not a secret. I've talked about it many times. Having an agent from Homeland Security embedded in our office, we have direct access to the U.S. Attorney's Office here in Vermont. And, some of our cases are going federal. and being prosecuted at the federal level. And I think it's important that people understand the reasons why, especially when some of these cases cross state lines. We have 2 detectives that are task force officers that can cross state lines. They're in Massachusetts and New York occasionally, and you can't do that as a Vermont law enforcement officer. But, our detectives are going to present on evidence processing and collection, and that'll definitely be a hands-on night. So there's a lot that went into planning this, and that's why we're not going to let it go. If we don't get the enrollment that we would like to have, then we'll put it off till later this spring or perhaps this summer when, I know that there's some folks in the school system that would like to participate, and it's tough for them to leave school at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and then come and sit until 8:30 or so at night, and then whereas this summer they would have time. So it's definitely going to happen. We just have to find the right time.
And it also includes all the different trainings that your team gets, correct?
Yes.
It covers all of those.
Yes.
Additional, not only the use of force, but de-escalation.
Yes.
Mental health and everything.
Yeah. We're gonna talk about another topic is talking about the police academy. There's so much misinformation about the police academy. I did some training, and I presented actually last week in New York, and the New York law enforcement officers just had a hard time grasping the fact that if you're a level 3 certified law enforcement officer in Vermont, you have authority throughout the entire state, where they either go by municipality or zone, unless you're a trooper. There's a lot that people don't understand about law enforcement. So we're going to talk about the academy. We're going to talk about the different certification levels and what you can and cannot do. And the hopes, to answer your second question, the hopes would be that maybe we would get somebody that might be interested in becoming a law enforcement officer, whether it's now or in a couple of years after they finish college or what have you, or we're also we're always looking to hire people for our communications staff, and part-time, which could result in full-time employment. And that's just another piece. Animal control is going to come in. Communication staff is going to come in. And
communications.
It's just a well-rounded, it's just going to be a well-rounded, 10-week presentation. And I think people will get a lot out of it.
Yeah, communications was very informative with everything that goes on, all the different screens, all the different tones, all the different counties. And I think getting that out there for that education is priceless, and hopefully we could maybe even get them on an agenda coming up.
The communication staff is often forgotten, and they really are instrumental in how we function. And I know some of you have sat with communications staff. We couldn't do our jobs without them, but there's so much more to it. Our communication staff is, when the arrest warrants are issued, the relief from abuse orders are issued by the court, the stalking orders are issued by the court. We maintain all of those at the Bennington Police Department, and it's a lot of work. Not to mention the walk-in complaints, the people coming into the lobby and up to the window, and our communication staff is dealing with all of that. On top of answering the calls and the telephone calls and dispatching. So, I think it would really be eye-opening to people. And, like I said, it's not one of those things where we're going to toss people around and throw you on the floor or anything like that, because we want to make sure that this one's successful and then the next one's successful, and, people won't come if they think they're going to get hurt. So, But thanks for asking.
Thank you.
Well, I just had a question about the fundraising campaign, and I can't remember, you talked about, is this for 2 dogs? Is it to replace Gracie plus an additional, or how is that?
So right now, our first goal is to obtain a Labrador Retriever and get the dog trained. I've been in communication with the director of the police academy and how we're going to do that. And to get the equipment into a car that we need. It has to have a kennel and all that other stuff. So that's our first goal. And if we go beyond and we get beyond our current fundraising goal, we will have a reserve account. I mean, this money is specifically for canine.
Okay.
It's not to go out and buy body armor for law enforcement officers. It's not. It's specifically for our canine program.
Yep.
That's where the money's going to go. It'll sit in that reserve account. And like I said, year and a half from now, when it comes time to upgrade Rob Morowski's car and replace Gracie, we may not have to do that second fundraiser. Right. So this could be very beneficial.
Cool. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I had a quick question on the police academy. So is that something that you would envision that would be beneficial for the board members to, if not actively participate, at least kind of shadow the classes, just for more information?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I would encourage that. You know, Lieutenant Grandy and I spoke about, you know, if we hit our max of 15, and we had people from the board that wanted to come to the classes, you know, we would make that happen. But there's no reason why you can't apply and, you know, and attend. You know, it's just, it's a commitment. We are asking that you make each session, there are 10 sessions, about 3 hours each session, and it'll be different than, some of it will be different than what you've experienced with Lieutenant Grandy and my staff already. We're going to go a little more in depth.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any questions from, if you could just go up and go to one and just name and.
Hi, Sarah Beth Ward from Bennington. I don't even know if that's working. I don't know how many people have already applied for the academy to get to the 10. Do you need like a lot more to get?
Yeah, we need at least 8 more.
You need, so you have 2
Yeah.
people.
Again,
All right.
the people have called and are very interested. It's just, I don't know, this period of time. We did, our plan is to do this one, and then we'd like to do one a year. But it's just a matter of getting our program up and
Now,
running.
the people that, so we're supposed to start on March 6th. So the people that are coming to teach the classes, is it going to be difficult to get them rebooked if you already have them booked out for the 10 weeks?
No, I think my staff has a very clear understanding. I have a little list on my wall where I'm kind of keeping track, and I don't think it would be. It's very doable to reschedule. For later in the spring if we don't hit the 10.
And then you think if you're going to do it spring, it's going to go into the summer?
It'll go into the summer a little bit.
You're going to be going into summer vacation.
Yeah, that's why we're trying to think, like, you know, perhaps if it's not going to work now, then maybe mid-May and beginning of May, mid-May, and then running it through June and just barely into July. We've got to try to figure that out. And we had it set so that it was only one night a week because we didn't want to burden people with coming twice, but there is a possibility of running it 2 nights a week. There are other law enforcement agencies that do that just to cut down on the length of time. Again, being new to this, we looked at a lot of different programs around the country, and it was really 3 to 5 hours each time for 10 weeks. But listen, people are busy, and
Right.
you know.
But I'm thinking if people can't make the 3 hours for 1 week, it's going to be difficult for them to do 2 classes a week.
Yeah. We'll have to look and see, perhaps, the couple of people that have applied, and if we get other people to apply, maybe just trying to figure out what people's schedules look like. Because I think once we do this the first time and the word gets out, people are going to want to do it.
All right.
It's like going to the Great Escape. But I appreciate your input.
Any other questions, comments? Thank you, Chief.
Thank you. I appreciate all of you.
Next on the agenda, we're going to be talking about the
One of the things that really struck me about the town survey, and that Jonah brought up in one of our meetings here, was the two questions around safety. One was how safe do you feel in your neighborhood, and how safe do you feel in town as a whole, immediate neighborhood and town as a whole. And what struck me in just looking at that was that not only was there a difference, but I began to make some assumptions about who those people were, and then discovered through looking at the survey itself and the results that there was an age breakdown. So what I did was I created a table of age by those two questions. That table I'm going to send to Jim, and he's going to put it on the website with the video. Attach it to the video so that you can see the table itself. So numbers can be really funky sometimes to try to talk to them without you seeing them. So I'll do my best, but please ask any questions as I move through this, okay? So I broke this down by age, and the ages were 18 and younger, so the kids, right? 19 to 29, young adults. 30 to 49, 50 to 64, and then 65 years and older. So you've got 5 categories, right? And the issues were, do you feel safe, unsafe, very unsafe? Some people left it blank, some people said neutral. So what I did is I just looked at the responses for safe and very safe, put those together, and then unsafe and very unsafe. Okay, does that make sense to everybody? Okay. So when we just look at how safe do you feel in your immediate neighborhood, what struck me was that 51% of respondents across all ages felt safe, very safe in their immediate neighborhood, which I thought was pretty good. Half the people, right? But the proportion who feels unsafe, very unsafe in their immediate neighborhood was small. It was 14.7%, right? But when we break it down by age, things become very different. And what struck me most was that the people who feel most unsafe in their immediate neighborhood were people who were 19 to 29. Okay? The people who felt the safest in their neighborhood, and you could probably guess this, are the oldest people. They've lived probably in those neighborhoods for a very long time. They know the community. They feel safe in their neighborhood, right? The kids, the 18 years and younger, felt safe in their neighborhood and there were only 13% who felt unsafe, which I was happy about, because we want our kids to feel safe in where they live. Things change. So are there any questions about that? Okay. Things change quite a bit when you ask how safe or unsafe they feel in the town as a whole. And one of the things that I'm hoping we can talk about as the board and you as members who are here of the community is where we go from there. So how safe do you feel in the town of Bennington as a whole? Okay. The folks who felt most unsafe were the people between 30 and 49. So who are those folks? They're people who are raising kids, for the most part. They're our families. When we combine the 30 to 49 group and the 50 to 64, because those are folks who have kids in school, adolescents, maybe even young adults, it really jumps high. So one of the things that, for example, the 50 to 64 range, 64% of them feel unsafe in the town as a whole. People who are the oldest, only 19% of them felt unsafe, the town as a whole. So in the proportion, all the respondents, the proportion who feel safe and unsafe in the town as a whole was 31.8% compared to the 51.1% in their neighborhoods. And then the proportion who feel unsafe and unsafe in the town as a whole was 30.7%, twice as high as those who feel safe in their neighborhood or unsafe in their neighborhood. So one of the things that I would like to know is, so what do they mean by town? Are we talking about just downtown? What are we talking about? Town as a whole? Are we talking about because, Bennington stretches out to Walmart and Price Chopper. That's still Bennington, right? Is that what we're talking about? Where are we in this, So when we are talking about our listening sessions, that's why I did this. I thought we're going to have all these folks coming to the listening sessions. It's, we want to know how they feel about the town and whatever. But anyway, so I wondered if anybody had any questions, though. The members of the board have the table in front of them. They don't have my breakdown of by age that I did for myself because I was curious. Yeah, go ahead.
We don't know the neighborhoods of the respondents, though?
No,
Okay.
there's no. Everybody that responded to the survey is completely anonymous.
Yeah.
So we don't know what their immediate neighborhoods were, where they were, which is why I thought we could probe for some of this in some of our questions with when we go to the listening sessions. Yeah, Jeannie.
Thanks.
No.
I'm Judy Jenkins.
Oh,
I just
yeah.
wanted to follow up on what you said. When you did your breakdown, did you include people that only work in town and don't live in town? Or
I
you just-
included everybody, so all the responses.
Okay, so there are, it's a minor percent.
Yep.
But it's more than 10% of
Okay.
people that responded that only work in town
Yeah.
might have still responded to that question, although you would think they would have left it blank.
They might. Yeah, because
It
there's.
would be nice to check that.
Yeah, there's 88 people in that that just left it blank. And there's people who said neutral. There were 202 people out of 849 that were neutral. So you had almost a quarter of the respondents were neutral. And it's hard to know what neutral means.
Well, I was going to ask that. Yeah.
We don't really know what neutral means. And Jonah was not able, there's just no way. This is, because it was one of the responses they could have. They could have neutral, safe, unsafe, very safe, and very unsafe. So there were 5 responses they could have, and we can't extrapolate as to
Right, and I
what.
get it was because of the Likert scale.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it does, what percentage,
So almost
of people that
25%,
acted-
almost 25%. There's 23.8% of folks who said they were neutral.
So it would be interesting
Yeah.
to look at
Oh,
those
yeah.
neutrals, how
Abs-
many of them weren't Bennington residents? Because.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't have that data, do
Yes, we do.
Yeah, we do. We do. I could,
It was the question you had to say, do you live?
or just work.
And. Or
Yeah,
work.
I think there were 4.
You wouldn't necessarily know which people didn't live in there that answered those specific
Yeah,
questions that way.
Well,
would
the
you?
thing is that what you could do,
Yeah, you could.
yet another contingency table. But, yeah, I could try to tease that out. Yeah. Yes.
Did you say that the oldest felt more safe
Yes.
in the town as a whole?
So they felt, actually the oldest, the 65 years and older, felt more safe than, let's say, the youngest group or that group that's raising kids. There were 47.5% of those who were oldest who felt safe, very safe, and only 19% in town.
Okay, well, there are two things
Sure.
here. I think it's wonderful. This is something that you can get at in the listening sessions.
Yes,
Like, what is your neighborhood? What is
That's right.
where?
that's
And
right.
it may just be that the very elderly don't go very far outside of their neighborhood.
Well,
That-
that may be true.
Some of the
Yeah,
places that worry other people, they don't even get out to.
that's right. That's
So
right.
go for it in the listening session. That's
Yeah.
a great way.
Absolutely. Because what's interesting is both the oldest group, they are the ones who feel safest in their neighborhood, and they're also the ones who feel safest in the town as a whole.
Yeah, well.
So, which I think is wonderful, right?
Yeah,
Because
but
we
it-
often
it-
think of people
but
who
you-
are older
like,
as vulnerable.
Where do you go?
Well, that's right. That's right. What is town? Is it just downtown? Or where is
Well, I'm
town?
thinking when my kids were growing up
Mm-hmm.
of when I live over on West Main Street or
Yeah.
just off of that.
Yeah.
And that when they were old enough to get all the way to Castleton's at the corner of Elm Street. I mean, it's like where sort of the unwritten
Yes.
borders
Sort of boundaries, yeah.
of their life.
Yeah.
And so I think you're going to be getting at that in the listening session.
Yeah, I think so too.
Good.
Thank you. Other questions? No?
I think one thing that strikes me here is looking at some of these numbers. I mean, we were talking about the younger people and their percentage, but the thing that strikes me in theirs is of the 134 respondents, 70 of them either said neutral, they left the question
Yeah.
blank.
Yeah.
And that's more than half.
Yeah.
I'm just not,
I didn't even
that just seems weird to me.
Like, when they did blank, I kept the 134. So, I mean, we're not talking about statistical analysis here. This is just for conversation, right? And to try to think about how we could use the town survey data to help us sort of figure out what's going on in town and how best to assist our police department in responding, but also how best to assist the stakeholders, right? So there's lots of flaws in this. Let me put it out there. Okay, and I readily admit to that. This was not for conferences. Okay.
Jim Byers, Bennington.
Oh, sure.
So I'm hearing a strategic, and then I'm asking about a tactical. The strategic part of this, I'm hearing from what you're gathering, part of the goals of CPARB and the Select Board
Yeah.
is to start building and fostering open, trustful communication
right.
between the citizens and our police authority. And I think that's a viable goal that we can accomplish. What would be we have the listening sessions. What would be the other tactical way? How can CPARB work with the Select Board, the police department, and the public then to help bring the people who do not feel safe or comfortable into, and it's going to take time, but
Yeah.
what's going to be the long-term tactical goal to make open, trustful communication happen so we can start making our residents feel safe. And it's very disheartening for me to hear that a lot of it's people with family-aged children.
Yeah.
I can understand why, but it's just, but it should not be that way, and it doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah, no,
Thank you.
I would agree. I mean, I think it's important for the events, the community events that the police department is holding. And it may be that CPARB, we need to talk about that in terms of strategic planning, not just the listening sessions. There's been some comments about, or just like casual comments about, well, maybe we need to have a table or something like that at a place like Garlic Town or some festivals where there's tables, information tables. And maybe we need to do something like that. I mean, that's just been sort of comments that we've made to each other about ways to do that. But I think your point and your concerns are really important. And, yeah, we need to consider those.
I think the listening sessions are just a start. I think that they're going to have to be something that are going to have to be ongoing. And I think, to piggyback on what Kate said, it's a matter of getting out into the community at different events, whether it's Mayfest or Garlic Town or different things going on. I think part of it also is just going to be consistency and continuing and trying to work with Jonah to get information out about CPARB and what we're doing or trying to do. And just the awareness that, yes, we have the meetings, you can come and you can speak, and sometimes people don't want to do that on camera. So there are other ways to get in contact with us. We have our webpage with a comment. We have an email. You can email me, kcarroll@benningtonvermont.org. But I think it's just going to take a while for us to be continually consistent. We're going to talk about the listening sessions. We have a couple of locations lined up, but that's just a start. And whatever we start with in May or June for listening sessions might be a little bit different than what we're doing in September and October. Things can change. And it's just going to have to be one of those things that morphs with it. But I do think that we need to get out there a little bit more and get a little bit more communication out on what we are. So when we talk about CPARB, people don't say, well, what is that? At least they know, for starters. I don't know if that answers your question, Jim, but that's.
I know it's long term. It's going to be a long-term strategy. There's going to be a lot of community partners involved. I'd love to see this first step outside of the information. I'm glad you pointed out that the information can be just a little more even. But it's a process. We just got to keep doing it. Thank you.
Yeah, we have to keep doing it, and we also have to keep trying to get positivity out. Instead of, a lot of the negative headlines. I mean, it's, people don't feel safe in town, but they feel safe in their neighborhood, and whatever somebody's neighborhood is what it is. My neighborhood, to me, you might live next door to me, and your scope of what the neighborhood could be different than mine, but we all see the headlines, and we all see some of the perception that those headlines can bring, and I think if we can just all try to concentrating on getting some of the positivity out, as opposed to just the negativity and the sensationalism. And I'm not saying, not to report news as is, because, you definitely have to, but maybe it doesn't need to be reported 5 or 6 times, 6, 7, 8 months later. Maybe it could be something a little bit different that's a little bit more positive, instead of something made to intimidate and bring fear. So, anyway. Any other comments or anything else on the survey? Yep.
My name is Jack Lamatz from Bennington, Vermont. Thank you for some of those numbers. I work with numbers all day long, so I know how easy it is to get sort of lost in them. But I think it's great to break it out by age. I think there's a lot of other factors in the survey that you could also break it out and look at it by. But I think I'd like to express that for the listening sessions, I think you have an opportunity to really collect some qualitative data, why people feel safe or unsafe in their respective communities. It's great to know how many, but if we want to get to solutions, knowing what the causes of those feelings are, I think could be really valuable. And as you move into the process of your listening sessions, I really hope that you could be regimented about collecting some data from those sessions in a structured way, so that at the end of it, you don't wind up with just, we feel, we heard, but you actually have something to point to that would be a compelling argument for making changes or keeping things the way they are.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments on the survey? Kate, thank you for putting that together. It's going to be very beneficial and helpful with the listening sessions. Okay. All right. So next on the agenda is the community listening sessions. We're going to be talking about some of the questions, our locations, timelines, and communication plan. So first up are the questions that we were talking about. So Kate, do you want to summarize those?
Okay. We made some changes to them last meeting, and one of the things I want to just as a caveat for these questions is that they're open-ended by design so that we can get to exactly what you're talking about, Jackie. And that one of the things after each question, we're going to ask the members that are there, the residents that are in the gathering, if you will, in that session, about a takeaway. How would they summarize? So we're hoping to have those, those large sort of poster boards where we can write down some of their comments and then ask them to come up with a statement that's a takeaway for each of those questions. So that's how we're going to at least attempt to collect this rather than I feel, or, just a list of comments. So the first question, have you ever had interactions with the Bennington Police Department? And then as appropriate, because it may be that people in the session, nobody's had direct contact. If they have had direct contact, then if it's appropriate, well, does this happen often? And then tell me how it felt. Tell us how it felt. The second question was, do you know how to give feedback to the Bennington Police Department? That's an important concern. And then the third one is, several residents have suggested that they would like an officer to routinely walk around their neighborhood. This comes from both the comments on CPARB for this last town survey, as well as the one in 21. And then what would it mean for you to have an officer walking around your neighborhood, right? And then the fourth one is the BPD uses a community policing model of law enforcement. Just as a sidebar, community policing is a strategy. It's a philosophy of partnership and engagement with the community and with community agencies. So we want to make sure they understand that piece. But then what's their impression of what it means in practice? What is that, in a sense, what does it look like? And then what would that mean for your neighborhood, group, and community? If their sense of community policing is this one idea, what would that mean for them? Okay. So those are the four questions that we've talked about and edited. And I wondered if because we want to have this as a final draft, I'm hoping that there aren't any other questions or concerns.
So I just want to explain my understanding on this, so that we're all on the same page, or so that I'm on the same page. So, the community listening sessions are an opportunity for us to get out into the community and talk with people about what they think and what they feel. We understand that coming into a big room like this with a camera going and microphones can be intimidating, and not everybody wants to do that. So the thought is that we're going to get out into the community, and it is going to take us out of our comfort zone. We can only go in pairs of 2 or 3. Because we can't break quorum. So we will be mixing it up, and some of us are going to have strengths where we're a little bit more comfortable talking, and some of us are a little bit more analytical, and we'll mix it up. But the thought is to get out there and at least to start to collect some of that data and that conversation. And for me, when I look at these questions, I look at them as a guide. It has to be something that we have to be consistent with, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you come in and you read right off of the paper. Now, I call it my left-handed dyslexia. For me, I want to know what's important to you, so when I go in and I'm probably going to start with question number 4. What is community policing? This is the maybe definition of it, but what does it mean to you? And then from there, I would go into the other questions, like, well, several residents have suggested that having an officer walk routinely around is what they want, but, what do you want? And how would it make you feel if you do have officers around? Some people are going to like it, others maybe not so much. But at least it gives them the opportunity to understand that and to get that out. And, as far as if people have had interactions, probing is appropriate. If somebody feels like they want to talk about their interactions, then probe. And if they don't, well, maybe they won't this time, but maybe they will next time. And it doesn't hurt to say, hey, you can always reach out to us after if you want to talk privately, because maybe even some people won't feel comfortable talking in a big group. So I think for me, I think that these are all important questions, but I think that we have to remember that we are individuals, and we're going to have to put out the conversation the way that we feel like we can guide that. So I think it's important to know, do you know how to give feedback to the Bennington Police Department? Some people may say yes, some people may say no. Some people might think, well, you can just call, but they might not realize that there's a form online that they can fill out as well. So I think it's a good place to start. I realize it's going to be a work in progress. And if we get to a point where we're asking a question and we're getting, a lot of pushback on that, then okay, we take a step back and let's look at a different question or rephrase it or try to, to do it a different way and see, but we got to keep trying anyway. So that's my thoughts on the questions. Anyone else have a comment?
I actually, if you look at my paper, I circled question 4. You pointed that up to the top and question 1 down. So I agree with it. That should be kind of the opener to get the conversation going. You don't just want to hit them with like, hey, have you been arrested? Have you had thrown on the ground and cuffed? Or anything like that, or any kind of interactions. Start softly, start with that kind of just soft, easy question. And then as you learn the personality of the person and get a feel for them, then you can get into the harder questions and the more probing questions.
A lot of it's relationship building.
Yeah.
I think you can't just walk into a room and expect people to open up to you and say blah, 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 blah. You've got to give them a reason to trust you, and it's got to be a comfortable conversation. And some of them are not going to be comfortable conversations, but they have to be able to feel that.
Going with that, I mean, maybe we take that question, the one that's question number 1 right now, and that's the last thing we talk about. We've had a conversation, we've talked about community policing, we've talked about giving feedback to the Bennington Police Department. We may even mention in there, how to give feedback to the CPARB if you want to drop us an email message or something. And then go into, officers in neighborhoods. And then we get into, have you had interactions, how many, if it's appropriate, and work on it that way.
Oh, I think that I don't think that we should come across as extremely scripted, for starters. And I think that what people say could actually guide the conversation, because if I were to come in and I were to say, okay, my introductory statement is, this is what community policing is, and we want to find out what community policing means to you, and then to start these questions. But then if someone says, during that, well, it's to me, but I don't know how to get in touch with them, well, then I would want to skip through and go directly to that question. Or if somebody says, well, community policing to me is this because I have had no interactions or numerous interactions or something, then you might just jump up to one. I don't know if saying that this is the specific order, or if it's like, these are the points that we want to hit throughout that listening session, because you may have something else that may just come right out of the conversation that may want that you may want to talk about, but I think that we need to get these, but I don't think they have to be in, okay, we're going to ask question 1, we're going to ask question 2.
These were never designed as a survey. That was never their purpose. This was about something to help guide a conversation with our fellow residents and to get to know them as much as we possibly can. But it is a conversation, and which is why in past meetings we've talked a little bit about, well, maybe we need to have some kind of a introduction, quote unquote, about what CPARB is all about. What maybe our goals. They may never have, from the town survey, it sounded like a lot of people had no clue about what we did or the power or no power that we had. And so, again, a conversation, and so that these were, in a sense, the ideas, the questions that we wanted to be able to answer during those sessions that we felt were most important. The sequencing is entirely up to whoever is doing the facilitation of the meetings. That's up to them, and how they read, if you will, the group that they're with. In conversations we've had, in terms of the presenters, if you will, of that, or the facilitators, probably a better term, is that 2 of us, maybe 3, but most likely 2 of board members. It's scattered, so it's not the same 2. It's shaking it up a little bit so that we get those variety of relationships and conversations going. Because otherwise, if only 1 or 2 people are going to be always there, it's going to change the tone. This isn't a research project. This is a project to understand and to guide the work that we're doing, and inform the work that we're doing. Other questions or comments on the questions? Yeah, Jeannie.
Jeannie Jenkins. Just quickly, were you thinking to invite people to, any other thoughts you had related to community policing that you want to share with us? Were you hoping to invite that, or were you hoping to keep this, I guess, tighter?
I would think that we would invite it because it's an open conversation. You just don't, you don't know where it's going to go. You just hope to get, the consistent questions for some data, but I think it would be, where you just don't know where it's going to go. Yeah. And hopefully we'll get some other
I was
direction.
just wondering, because it just feels like if you want to do that, then you want to make sure you put it down as a question.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and we do have that one, that uses the community policing model, but that's going to require us to maybe describe what that model is, right? Right.
And
so that, yeah.
Right, and I guess what I was, just, do you want to open it up and say at the end, is there anything else that you want to share with
absolutely.
us?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Yeah. I think, are there any other comments on the questions? Then yes.
So this is going to be done in
No, go.
Sarah Beth Board. This is going to be done in a group session.
Yeah.
It's going to be like 4 or 5 people, it's not going to be like individually.
No. Yeah, no. In fact, we identified a number of locations, neighborhoods, populations, and Vicki, I wondered, I don't mean to take over, I wondered if you could, did you help put those? I mean, there's 2 that have been identified already under the timeline. Yeah, if you could talk a little bit.
We talked about neighborhood-based, North Bennington, maybe Powers Market, Old Bennington, Carriage Barn, or the church, Gage Street area. We thought Rec Center would be a great place to hit up. Willowbrook, Orchard Village, Molly Stark area, Pleasant Street, School Street, Main Street, local churches, or the Ben Al School, East Road area, which is Branch Street, Middle School, Gore Road, Beach Street area, the firehouse, South Street, Week Street, Armory or Elks.
These are two that you have set up?
No, these are suggested
No, I
places
meant
that
the
we've.
Turning Point
Yeah.
in Willowbrook?
Yes, we have Turning Point, which will be May 8th. And then Willowbrook has agreed, and I just need to confirm a date with Lindsay. And then after that, we're hoping, if Willowbrook goes well, to get out into Brookside, possibly the Walloomsac, and a couple of other places. But this is where we're starting with, for starters.
So
Unless
from-
anyone else out in the community would like to invite us to come in, we're open for that. So if there are any other locations around, please feel free to reach out to us, and we can get something scheduled. But we're looking to start in May.
Yeah.
We have not yet, but that's a great suggestion.
I think
Any
the one thing that we haven't talked much about is an introductory statement about CPARB itself, and that there may be points that we want to make sure that we touch on as to what our goals, our role is, and so just so that everybody's on the same page about who we are and what we're trying to do. And then some kind of a media plan about getting the word out to people, what would work best. Whether that's, for example, with using Willowbrook, is it best to have flyers? Is it how best to make sure residents there and people who may not reside at Willowbrook but are around that area who want to come, how best to get the word out to them as well?
Yeah, so Scott, do you want to talk a little bit about that with Jonah?
Yeah, so we met with Jonah a couple weeks ago. Actually, it was more than that now, God. Jeff and I met as the communications committee, and we asked for some specific things, and Jonah went a little above and beyond what we were looking for. So we were trying to meet with him this week. He unfortunately had to cancel on us. We're meeting with him tomorrow afternoon, and we should be able to shorten up what he had written, just kind of focus a little more, and we'll be able to report back next month.
Okay. So next month will be March, the 16th. We should be able to get some communications out by then, because then we're looking at 2 months. So, okay. All right. Any questions or comments on that? Any concerns or discussions from anyone in public comment? All right. So if there's no further discussion, can I get a motion to approve the questions and locations and timeline that we've got for the listening session?
I make a motion, we approve.
Okay. All those in favor,
Aye.
say aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? So carried. All right, thank you. Next on the agenda is upcoming agenda items. Obviously, we'll be having more follow-up to the community listening session next month, perhaps a little bit more on the survey as we get some additional information in that. I'm also curious as to if we can pull out the data with renting and owning for those age groups, if we could do that too. I think that would be helpful, and it may not tell too much about neighborhoods, but it might shed some light on some things. Could you, if you can, I think.
continues to take up the one you suggested. That's by neighboring town, but that's safe and unsafe. And it's whatever that variable, that question is with them. I think there's 5 pieces to the response to that. Whether they live in town, work in town, live and work in town, whatever that is.
Okay, thank you. And then the only other thing I'm hoping to get on one of the next 2 agenda items is we're hoping to get somebody to come in and talk to us about facilitating listening sessions and some best training or best practices just to help some of the board members who maybe are not that familiar or comfortable with that, just to try to give us that. So that's something that we're looking for if we can find. Anyone else have anything else for upcoming agenda? So next on the agenda is announcements. I just want to remind everybody that the Town Planning Commission is holding their meetings on the future of Bennington. The next one is Friday, it's February 21st. I think it's a Wednesday, at noon right here in the firehouse, or Saturday, March 2nd at the Bennington Free Library. So please take advantage of that, and also don't forget to vote on March 5th. Any other announcements?
You were talking about getting some training or suggestions about facilitating. It occurred to me that you might want to talk to the people from BCRC about their experience with facilitating their listening sessions.
Great idea. Thank you, Tortoise. Okay. Any other announcements? If not, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Can I get a second? Okay. All those in favor? Opposed? Abstains? Thank you very much. The next meeting will be Thursday, March 14th at 6 p.m. in the firehouse right here, 3rd floor. Thank you all and have a wonderful evening.